On today's Academy lesson, I'm going to talk about something that I think is a little bit more important than a trick or a move, and it's something that most magicians fall under the spell of when they are younger or when they are just learning magic, and that is the concept of too much. Now, too much not only applies to magic that you're learning, too much also applies to magic that you're performing, and also to magic that you are purchasing, and also to how you approach creativity, for example, when it comes to making up tricks. Now, oftentimes when it comes to a trick, a move, a sleight, a routine, anything related to magic, often enough, by taking something away is how you improve it. A lot of people think that we need to add something. Oh, this routine is missing something. Oftentimes what's needed is to remove something, and you're going to see that the routine is going to flow better. Now, in performance, knowing when to stop is one of the most important things you could have as a magician, because when you are younger, when you are inexperienced in magic, you tend to want to perform absolutely everything you know, because you never know when the performance opportunity is going to come again. So you want to show this person or group of people as much as possible. And the unfortunate downside of that is that they're not going to remember specific tricks. And as a matter of fact, they might even remember that you did so many tricks. There's a great quote in Magic for Dummies that says, knowing when to stop is equally important as knowing when to start. It's better to show one trick and move away than show 20 tricks and move away. So less is more. That adage exists for a reason. Less is more. So if you show them everything you know, what's left? So as far as too much in performance, you definitely want to be on the lower level. You don't want to perform too much. You want to perform maybe 1, 2 things and then move away. If they want to see more, then you leave your contact information. That's how you establish networking. That's how you establish connections. When it comes to actual tricks itself, notice that the best tricks are the ones that are punchy, the ones that are short. Those are the ones that typically get the best reactions. The tricks that are longer and overdrawn, it really depends on the audience. But usually, if you're performing in normal circumstances, they're not going to be prepared. They're not going to be ready. They're not going to want to see a 10, 15, 20-minute card set. So next time you perform, keep that in mind. Think of something you could do that's visual, something you could do that's going to call attention to yourself and that's going to get the job done, but don't overdo it. Now, when it comes to individual tricks itself, this is another thing where too much could apply. To me, again, I keep repeating, the effect is the most important part of the trick. You want to make sure you get the effect, and you want to make sure that there's clarity in the effect. So whatever it is that you could remove on that process from point A to point B, which is the conclusion of the effect, as much fat as you could trim away, that's what you're going to need to do. If the trick doesn't require shuffling, don't shuffle. If the trick doesn't require any sort of overt movement, don't do that movement. Just get directly from point A to point B. Now, that's not saying that there's no interaction here, and that's not saying that there's no room for creativity. However, what you're going to notice is that adding too much to the trick in terms of either flourishing or moves or things that you don't need to actually accomplish the effect is actually harming the trick at the long run. You want people to be able to remember the trick, and again, it's best if they are able to recall the trick in a sentence or two. So he made the card float, or the card went from the middle of the deck to the top of the deck, or he told me my grandmother's name. Another way that the rule of too much applies to magic is in magic shops. Now, magic shops, you have to remember, are businesses. At the end of the day, they have to make money. They have to keep running, and they're going to do everything they can to tell you, and not necessarily trick you, but they're going to try to do everything they possibly can to convince you that you need whatever item they're trying to sell. So oftentimes, you're not going to need that item, unless it's something that you think is going to help you out tremendously, unless it's something that you have no doubt in your mind that you're going to use on a daily basis and that it's going to return itself in terms of the price, there's no reason to get it. So unless you're going to be able to make that money back using that item, I don't think anything's worth it. So if you purchase a deck of cards that happens to be $50, are you going to get $60 in return? Think about that next time you're purchasing a trick. Now, again, some people are hobbyists, some people are not necessarily professional magicians, but even then, think of the value you're going to get from the item. Is that item going to be worth more in emotion? Is it going to be worth more in longevity than the actual price itself? So if the item is $30, are you going to get $31 worth of longevity from it? Are you going to get $31 worth of positivity from that item? So just think if the item is worth it, because oftentimes it's just going to end up in your magic drawer. It's going to end up on a shelf somewhere, and you're never going to see it again. Now, as far as creativity and coming up with tricks, I can't tell you how many times it's happened to old Piggy here that I've come up with a trick. I have a method for it. I'm really happy with it. Then I go and perform it for someone, and they hate it, or the reactions aren't exactly what I thought. I go back, I kind of workshopped the effect a bit, and then I realized, oh, I did way too fucking much. There's way too much going on in this trick. By cutting it down, you're going to see that that increases the effect. That's going to increase the impact of the effect. And overall, it's going to make the trick better. So in creativity, try to think about what you could do that's the least as possible in terms of moves, in terms of ways to accomplish what you want done. And you're going to see that that's going to affect the effect positively. So I just want to make a quick little video about the idea of too much and the idea that as magicians, we're kind of creatures that are always looking out for things. But oftentimes you don't need a new trick to become a better magician. You're not going to need that new item. You're not going to need to add so much to the trick to make it a better trick. So just think about ways that you could cut the fat in terms of not only creativity, but in terms of purchasing magic, in terms of performing. Just think of places where you could cut that fat, and you're going to see that that's going to improve your magic drastically. So think of the places where you could add those improvements. Think of the places where you could cut things away as opposed to adding things in. And please leave in the comments below different things that you guys could apply this sort of concept and this sort of rule to. So to conclude my rant on too much, I want to show you guys something that I've shown you before, but it is something that is pretty much the definition of this sort of minimal approach or cutting the fat idea when it comes to magic. So for this, again, spectator call stop anytime they want. Let's say they call stop over here. You tell them if they could shuffle the deck, and if they can't, to go ahead and mix it up. Spectator shuffling the cards in their own hands, and you tell them to put the cards in their hands when they are done mixing up. Of course, the spectator does this. You tell them you don't want to touch the cards, and you ask them if they would be impressive if I could go through the deck and pull out their card. And of course, the spectator is going to respond appropriately. They might say, yes, that'd be very impressive, or no, that wouldn't be impressive. And you go, okay, so would it be impressive if I could do it with the cards face down? And the spectator is going to respond, again, appropriately. And here you say, you know what, we'll do it. I don't need to touch the cards. We'll do it without touching the cards. So go ahead, look at me. Think of your card. Ace of Hearts. And of course, in that action, the spectators run off. They urinate themselves, and whatever other bodily fluid comes out because of that. And the reason for that is because it's short, it's punchy, it's direct, it's unexpected, and you build it up. So you're building up the levels of impossibility until, you know what, I don't even need to touch the deck. So you've established this premise of the spectator being impressed over and over again. Would it be impressive if I could go through the cards and find a card? Yes, that'd be pretty impressive because I mix the cards up. Would it be impressive if I could do it with the cards face down? Yeah, it would be impressive because you don't even look at the cards. You don't even need to look at the cards to find my card. That'd be very impressive considering, again, I just mixed up the deck. How about without even touching the cards? Well, how's he going to do that? And of course, it's simplicity itself. Spectator calls stop, right? In this case, it's the 10 of clubs. I get a break right below the card. As I ask the spectator if they could shuffle the cards, I'm doing the heel peek. So notice because of the break, when I turn these cards over, I could peek right at the index of the card just by virtue of turning the deck over. I've discussed this wonderful, wonderful little peek many times before, but it's definitely one of my favorites. And the cover for this one is, can you shuffle the cards? Okay, perfect. Take the cards in your hands and shuffle them. I don't want to touch them. Again, another important line. I don't want to touch them. So when the spectator tries to give you back the cards, which inevitably they would and they will, you say, no, I don't want to touch them. Make another big deal about that. Have them hold it in their hands, put their other hand on top, and then go through that whole little process. And again, it's a simple trick. It's quick, and it's direct to the effect. All the fat's cut out. There's nothing extra in it. And you're going to see that the spectator is going to remember that you were able to ascertain their thought of card without any work on your end whatsoever. So they're going to remember that, and they're going to attribute for you to have more skill than you actually do, because to them, there's no way. They shuffled the cards. All they did was think of a card, and you were able to find it or tell them what the card is. It's an amazing effect. So definitely don't dismiss it because of its simplicity. But thank you guys for being part of the Pick K Card Academy. I hope you guys got something from that. Hope you guys understand the idea of too much, and I hope you guys apply that to your own magic because it does really improve it tenfold. It is going to be something that you're going to see a noticeable improvement once you stick to that rule. So I hope to see you guys on the next lesson.